the official, and we just started talking, and I was like, "We'll just go live." It's like,
Nice.
there's no reason to hold back.
Right.
So,
Yeah. That sounds fantastic.
and in the spirit of everything is content,
Yeah.
everybody.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. We got to give the bots something to train on, right?
So true.
When I was in high school, up until high school, and just sort of similar, I actually had like no fear of public speaking until I hit puberty.
Mm,
And then
mhm.
insanely amounts of like anxiety happened. And when I went to college, I had to give like a talk in front of Philosophy 101, right? And it was like a class of 20 people. And I got in front of them. And I was just like, I said my first sentence. I was like, that was really good. And then that was it. My brain just was like, you're over, dude. And I stared at them for the longest time, and they pulled me over the side and had to hit like Control Alt Delete. I did not do well. It destroyed me, and
I never would have guessed that.
oh god, it was my bête noir for like forever. And then like I had to do other presentations. My heart was like in my throat. But when I was a senior in college, I had to do one in front of the comp sci class in front of like 15 people, and I made it through it with like insane amounts of prep. And I was so proud of myself for that. But I was so scared, and it wasn't till I started actually going to, like we were talking about a minute ago, going to
Mhm.
Toastmasters and actually practicing
Mm.
thinking on your feet, being
Yeah.
comfortable in your skin, being able to tread water and have thoughts. That took a while, and so it's pretty funny. I do get compliments after talks, and I go, they're like, "Oh, I could never do that." It's like I was never born that. This was
Mm.
not born in.
Yeah.
This was work.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah. Well, and it's funny you say that. So, well, my daughter came home with this thing. She's in 3rd grade, and it's like teacher for a day project where she has to get up in front of the class and teach them something. And I remember having to do a project. I think I was actually in 4th grade,
Mhm,
with 4-H, and
mhm.
we went on to the district level, and
Yeah.
that is the first time I distinctly remember being nervous
Mm.
speaking in public. I got up and my knees were literally shaking, and I was like, "That's the first time, like, what is this?" Because that had never
Yeah.
happened to me
Yeah.
before, and I was like, "Why are my knees shaking?" And then it's just kind of like this cyclical effect because then, like, since you feel that, you get even
Oh, yeah.
more nervous.
Yeah.
But it's one of those
You
things that
put
I've
more
just
pressure on, and
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh,
Yes.
okay, well, you better do better now. You better do this."
Right.
Like,
Right. Get a grip.
oh, yeah.
But I've just tried to kind of lean into it and just be
That's
like,
great.
I'm gonna embrace it and try and get over it. But for me, one of the biggest differences that I've experienced is from podcasting, but also live streaming. Between those 2 things, the
Yeah.
barrier feels a lot lower. You get a lot more comfortable
Yeah.
speaking on the fly
Mm.
and trying to carry the conversation, like, especially live streaming. You're there by yourself a lot of
Yeah.
times, and
Yeah.
let's gotta make it happen.
It's just practicing riding the bike.
Mhm.
You can't
Mhm.
learn how to ride a bike from reading a book on it. You'll
Yeah.
understand all the physics, you'll have all the theory, you'll know what you should be doing, and then you're gonna get on, you're gonna fall just like everybody else.
Yep.
And the trick is you've got to find a safe place to practice, fall, feel
Mhm.
comfortable, and just do it time and time again.
Yep.
Next thing you know, you're doing wheelies. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, and with podcasting, I've been editing a lot of our podcasts myself. And
Nice.
so just hearing yourself, it's like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, I didn't like the way I said that." And it's, immediate feedback that you can say, "Okay,
Yeah.
I can fix that. I'm not gonna say that all the time."
Exactly, and I think that that's one of the greatest parts is that if you have somebody who's checking for filler words and
Mhm.
parts like that, you end up
Yep.
hearing it in yourself, and that's the first step to get rid of it.
Yep. Yep.
I have a very interesting story where I didn't know I did finger guns in the early 2000s. I didn't know this at all, and somebody did an impersonation of me and was like, "Ha ha, yeah, da, da, da." And I said, "Who the hell is that?" And then they're like, "That's you." You're like, "Aha!" And I was like, "That's not me at all." And so they pulled a third friend over and said, "Okay, do the impersonation and tell me who this is." And she goes, "Ha ha ha ha." And he goes, I don't know who that is." I went, "Ha ha! Oh no! Oh no! I see it now." That was the day finger guns died for me.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Uh,
Yeah.
well,
Uh,
right now with the script, they have Underlord as their AI
mm,
name, and so you can ask the Underlord to remove all filler words. So I don't see them quite as much now, but I do see the number. It'll say, "We found 656 references."
oh,
So I'm like,
wow.
"Oh, good. Thanks for
That's
taking
over
care of
one
that."
podcast.
Yeah, but in mine and Brad's defense, here's all the pressure on you is that the guest does most of the talking.
That sounds
So
about right.
when Brad and I lead and we just have a host only show, there's a lot less instances.
Uh-huh. That
So,
makes sense.
anyways, yeah.
People love their filler words.
Well, and it's also funny too when I start editing to see how the show progresses
Mm,
because two things that I've noticed. One, they start to get more comfortable, and sometimes that creates more filler words. The
yeah.
second is a lot of times Brad and I will mirror whatever the guest is doing, or if they
Yeah.
have certain filler words we use, we start to incorporate them in our own speech. I'm like, where did that come from? We don't normally say that, but we just start to, get in the groove of the conversation and repeat them back to that person.
To be
Whatever the guest.
fair, that means you know the rules and you know when to break them
Mm.
because it's about that connection
Appreciate that.
more than it is
Like, I'm
about
not sure there's that much thought that goes into it.
it could be intuition, but you've been doing this for decades now, at least talking to people and connecting
Yes.
with them. It's funny because I'm in New Orleans and everybody says, "You don't have a New Orleans accent." I said, "Well, you've never gone with me to order crawfish." Then it will come out immediately so that the person and I
Ah,
know to give me the good stuff.
that's so funny.
Yeah.
Brad, have you ever had crawfish?
Yes, yes. They do it in Texas as well,
Oh, they
so
do.
I guess
Okay.
a little late for it now. Yeah, I feel like it's more March, April timeframe.
Yeah. The prices start coming down now because the crustacean shells start to harden a bit, which, sounds really enthusiastic. If you want to say it disgusting like we do, like the bug shell is getting harder, so they're getting big but less flavorful, harder to go ahead and crack and eat.
Yeah.
So I don't think I had a crawfish until this year.
Oh,
And
Oh,
we
wow.
wow.
went to a restaurant and my son wanted to order them. And we were with friends. One was from Louisiana and one was from South Mississippi. And so they had to teach him how to eat them. Didn't know.
Fantastic. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. And you get faster and faster at one thing that we do that people make fun of us for is that we actually have crawfish gloves. So we keep gloves in the glove
Oh,
compartment so that when we need to just do any kind of crawfish or we stop somewhere
smart.
to get crawfish, we pull out the gloves and then we eat, and then we can touch our eyes afterward because it's
Yes.
spicy as hell. So we're
Yes.
fine.
Well, that was one thing they told him. They were like, "Don't touch your eyes," and he didn't. And then maybe this is TMI, but it's funny. So then my son got up to go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Wash your hands before you go to the bathroom because you don't want anything else burning."
Yeah. Yeah. We're serious about our spices. Those crawfish have a ton on them. Wash your hands. Or,
Yeah.
hey,
Gloves.
crawfish gloves. I just want to mark it right now. I've been doing this for years. When crawfish gloves take off as an industry, that's what you know. I
So
started.
is that like latex?
Yeah, just get some really cool, like black Nitrex like style gloves.
Okay.
They're fantastic. I put them on there and you don't and often you'll cut your hands eating
Ah,
crawfish if you're not
okay.
familiar with it, so you can cut your hands and you can spice your eyes. You put the gloves on, eat, take them off, you're ready.
Okay. My dad has gotten into smoking meat. And
Oh yeah.
so, he
Oh,
uses, like,
so good.
meat gloves, but a lot of times he has to put, like, normal, like, heat protectant gloves, and
Yeah.
he'll put the latex gloves on over that so that he can, like, really.
My neighbor across the street smokes meats and it's the best thing that can ever happen. I get hours and hours of my time back and then I get to eat
Yes.
food.
Yes.
I love
Perfect.
it.
Perfect. Well, we can go ahead and, like, officially start.
There we
So
go.
I should have covered this before we went live. So everybody that's tuned in so far will get a little bit of behind the scenes, which is totally fine. We like to say the longest hello and the longest goodbye. So I lived in Chicago for 4 years. They called it the Midwestern goodbye, where it's like, oh, I need to go. And then you walk around for an hour before you actually leave. So I feel like that sometimes on the show. So we, for everybody else, we said hello in like the green room, get ready state. We're saying hello now to the live stream. And then we actually start recording the show. And then at the end, it's that in reverse. So it's like 3 hellos and
Awesome.
3 goodbyes. So,
Love it.
and then I'm not sure unless you got the emails prepping, we have picks and plugs at the end. Yesterday we didn't do picks and plugs and we did a different segment with rapid fire. So if you do have picks and plugs, we could do both.
I'll do whatever. I'm
Okay.
easy. Put me on the spot. That's what I'm here for.
The Toastmasters experience.
Ready for it. I might get okay level, but whatever.
We're good. Okay, let me find the music. There it is. Okay.
Oh.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web design and development with a little bit of zest. In today's episode, we have my good friend Gant talking about React Native and running a consultancy.
Web development and design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compress.
Hello, my name is Amy Dutton. I am a lead maintainer on the Redwood JS core team.
And hey, y'all, my name is Brad Garapi. I'm a senior front-end developer at Stripe.
And as I mentioned, we have my good friend Gant from Infinite Red.
Hello, everybody.
Gant, I don't know if I ever told you this or not, but before I was at Redwood, I was at a consultancy called Zeal, and they were friends with you or one of your partners. Yeah. And had reached out just to get feedback on the stuff that you guys were doing and sales and all the things.
Yeah, with a consultancy, it's usually high tide raises all ships. There are some companies that we reach out to and they go, why would we connect with you? Why would we ever meet or send each other business? And those relationships are very short-lived, as well as probably the employees at those kinds of places. But the really awesome ones, we have a lot of partnerships. We talk to companies all around the world. And fantastically enough, our schedule is 100% full right now.
That's amazing.
And
Congratulations.
It's one of those sacred moments. Nobody on the bench. And I guess I should knock on wood or, get some holy oil or do whatever I have to do to keep that. But when that happens, we still have sales calls. We still have people interested. And we build these partnerships and we send them to our friends, or sometimes we can't service them right away, or we need an augmented team. So I love that because we have lots of agencies that we work with and we talk to, and it's really nice.
Yeah. Consulting, I feel like has really suffered over the last couple of years or so. Like Zeal ultimately ended up having to shut down just because the pipeline could not stay full. There's those ebbs and flows. And kind of, as you were saying, you always have to be selling.
Always have to be selling. The other thing that happens is consulting can sort of die by being too adjusting. Because sometimes technology will grow in one sector and then die. Another thing that happens is consulting companies will sometimes hire and then fire depending on the contracts that they have. Yep. And nothing, you think about it from a business perspective, and it's a great idea. You think about it from the employee perspective, and they're like, why am I staying here?
Yes.
So one of the things that we do is we rarely ever do layoffs or fires. We have people who have been with the company for well over a decade. We try to keep everybody as long as we can. And that's also the downside of that, is that we grow very slowly. As a matter of fact, for the first 5 years of the company, I told everybody we never hire on purpose. But when someone comes along and they're great, what you gonna do? And we only hire senior devs. So only having senior developers actually kind of keeps the mental load for everybody pretty light. You have a lot of support. You can call somebody in. It's like calling in, the special task force and being set. When you have a lot of junior devs, you find a lot of surprises and it's a little bit more work. Although companies that have junior devs generally make a lot more money because they have a higher range between what they're getting paid and what they're getting paid.
Yep.
For us, it's I guess it's a little bit more like a fun clubhouse.
Yeah, I can see that. We also did a lot of contracting ourselves so
Mhm.
that when we had certain spots open, we'd work with other companies,
Yeah.
which I mean, that also it's good and bad, right? You're not
Mhm.
hiring and firing exactly, but the person that you're working with is on the team, but not on the team.
Right. There's a culture hit on that one.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
that's one of the key parts that I think that if you go back to 2020, 2021, you're looking at this insane developer hiring phase. People
Hmm.
would say HTM, I think it's L, and they'd be like, "You're hired." And it just there was just an influx, and as looking at it, it's like, where are they placing all these people?
Mm.
But the way that the market is now, it is way more centric on people have to be experts. They have to hold on. And then with the advent of AI effectively being sort of like a junior developer in and of itself, people are looking more for experts.
Yeah. So actually, that kind of segues. How are you guys using AI within the consultancy?
Every way we can. I am a huge fan of AI. I started a AI journey in 2017. I felt like a complete idiot watching. We learned React Native. So, quick tidbit: React Native is React, but on multiple platforms: iOS, Android. It can also do web, Apple TV. It could do Windows, Mac. We've put it on 5 different platforms. It can even go beyond that, but we've only ever done it on 5. And
I
so,
don't think I even realized that.
oh,
It's
it
like
could
you
be
could do like
everywhere.
a Switch.
Yeah,
or
it's really,
something.
yeah, if you wanna build an Xbox game or something like that, you just React Native. It's
Wow.
super cool, the idea of this React, but constricted architecture. Like, you're not gonna get full on CSS, and you're not gonna get all those other pieces, but you're gonna be able to use NPM, and then there's a whole layer there where it's able to convert all those JavaScript instructions clearly to whatever native platform it has. And Meta has really been focused on increasing the code reusability across those platforms and also expanding them.
Mm.
That's with the new architecture and C++ and Objective C++. So there's a lot of really cool things that the Meta is doing here to sort of give us this whole layer of platform independence. It's sort of history repeating itself as well, because assembly had to work on the machine you coded it for that chipset. And then someone came along with C and said, hey, you write this higher level language and it'll compile down to what needs to be on that machine. We see this again happening now where we have this new architecture, and sometimes React Native runs more effectively and efficiently than it runs on someone writing the native code, because we've optimized the hell out of it.
Mm.
And so when you see those views and like the list views in React Native, and optimization comes across multiple platforms, especially if they're brought down to like the C++ level, then all those performance improvements go across all platforms. So that's React Native. So that's woohoo, flashback to there. 2017, Silicon Valley had an episode of that was called Hot Dog Not Hot Dog, and they
Yeah.
wrote an app, and it was real. I said that's not real. You can't do that. That technology does not make sense. You can't do this. And they did it in React Native. And I opened up the source code because someone had gotten hold of it, and I didn't understand it. And this is after being like a React Native expert. I said, what is going on here? What are tensors? What is a model? And like, I understand, some of these things, but model means 15 different things. What does it mean this? And how are they doing this? I took a ton of programming lessons, and then wound up actually writing a book on how to do AI in web called Learning TensorFlow JS, which O'Reilly published in 2021. And we've been just using AI any chance we can. And then ChatGPT came out, Copilot came out. Now you've got Claude, you've got Cursor, you've got all these different tools. And one of the things that we do as a consulting company is our thing is to deliver excellent code fast and effectively. So it's a poor carpenter who blames their tools. We give them all the nicest tools that they could possibly have, the nicest machines. So we have AI as long as the client allows us to have AI. So I know
Mm.
that was a huge answer that went through a couple different histories, but really, as long as the client allows us to use AI, we're using it because our senior devs are not going to ship some broken code, but they can absolutely shift code faster and verify it with AI on all their devices and all the tools that they need.
So have you had a client that said,
Yeah.
don't use it?
Yep. We have, funny enough, we're a pretty small company, but since we are experts, we end up working with some pretty big companies. And one of them, I'm not allowed to say,
Yeah,
but
that's
they're a
fine.
very large music provider and
Ah,
streamer. And what happens is they care so much about the information and the also the libraries that we use. Everything is under extreme scrutiny. We
mm,
weren't even allowed to bring in Expo or other kinds of things. So what we had to do is every single piece has to be under major scrutiny, and also everything's under lock and key. Sometimes that happens. We have clients who mail us laptops, need background checks,
mm,
and then
yeah.
sometimes we have a client who's like, "So you can work faster? Awesome."
Yeah. I was gonna guess it was healthcare. So
Oh
but
no, we do have some healthcare apps, but they're
yeah.
actually kind of cooler about it because they don't ever usually send us. While we are HIPAA compliant, we take the HIPAA compliance, and they keep what is it, PMI, personal medical information. They keep all
Mhm.
that, and they just send us mock data. Really nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
we
is nice.
almost push for that. Like,
Mm.
please don't make us go through those hoops. You need us to get an insurance, we'll get an insurance, but don't send us real medical information. We don't want to deal
I don't want it.
with that. But yeah, we've had a couple of medical clients, and thank goodness most of them we don't have to deal with actual real PMI.
Yeah. The closest we came to was, I mean, we didn't have medical information, but there's a company, I guess I can say it because we're not, they don't even exist anymore. I mean,
There you
the Zeal doesn't exist anymore. It was for Beckman and Coulter,
go.
and they do a lot of hardware stuff for lab
Mm,
environments. And so that was really interesting because they have like clean environments where you have to
mhm.
measure the particles in the room to know whether they're clean or not. It's like
Yeah,
one of those that you see on TV and somebody walks in the room and they blow fans everywhere to clean dust particles off the person before they can walk in. Like that's really the environment that you're talking about. And
you're right.
so the system that we worked on, what it almost looked like a toaster is what, we kind of called it internally. It was a toaster with a screen, but it would measure all of the particles in the room when they did the audits.
Wow.
And so even though it was a piece of hardware, it had Chromium running in the device, and we did the software for that device. So kind of
That's
crazy.
amazing. Those kinds of environments, I kept expecting. So I watch all the movies about a virus taking over the world and doing all these crazy things. And then I'm always like, there's always a part of the movie where a person's supposed to be confined in quarantine and they
Yes.
break out anyway. You're like, no, you're going to infect the rest of the world and stuff. And so I watch all these movies where they have those cool lab environments and it's super secure. I was
Yeah.
like, man, if this ever happens, this is going to be crazy. And then COVID happened, and people were just like, "Well, oh well." I was like, "Those movies lied.
Yes.
It was nothing like this. Nobody's trying to. It's everywhere now."
Yeah. I can't remember what the one is called, but I still haven't been able to watch it. I'm like, too soon.
Oh my
Too
goodness.
soon.
Oh yeah, there was Outbreak from
I
the
think
early
that's what it
2000s. Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Oh,
Outbreak.
there's a one
Can't do it.
scene where he coughs in a movie theater. If this is a movie I'm thinking of, I think it's Outbreak. But you go see it at the movie theater, and then it's just him
Yeah.
coughing in the movie theater, and it follows the virus as it goes and lands on people's popcorn. And I'm sitting there watching the movie. I was like, ugh, thanks, movie.
Oh, gross. Gross. Yeah. Stuff like that. I'm like, it's too real now.
Oh, it
Mm.
is. There's too many things that are too real now, but that's a different topic.
Oh man. So well, Brad, I'm hogging the conversation.
That's okay. You're doing a great job driving.
Yeah,
Um,
Thanks.
I wanted to go back just a little bit. You mentioned,
yeah,
Meta and React Native.
yeah.
Myself and Amy are new to this stuff.
Okay.
I've never touched it. Amy, have you?
No.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I'm very curious. What is Meta's involvement in React
Oh,
Native? Is it similar in the way that they're involved in creating React?
yeah. As a matter of fact, they have a dedicated team. So let's go back to the history of React Native. React comes out, surprises everybody. Just what is going on here? It's beating Google. It makes more sense. It's using it doesn't have bidirectional, it has a unidirectional flow. It's saying like, okay, let's make the output a function of state. It brings in functional concepts. And for a while, by the way, functional programming sort of gets a resurgence because it's under the React encapsulation, which was using objects. And by the way, I hate to say it, but I have to say it, like I miss objects in React. It was just so beginner friendly to teach people and instruct them. I understand how we're moving further forward and why we are, because we need to have not just concurrent, but parallel programming for large scale. However, so it's just kicking butt. 2013, and then what happens is Facebook at the time, Facebook Meta later, has a hackathon where someone says, let's apply this concept to just go ahead and doing this to mobile. And it's two people. I'm sorry, I don't have their names memorized right now. Maybe we can put them in the show notes. But over a weekend, they just proved like, what about instead of giving the instructions on how to build web components here, you have the instructions in a diffing engine to effectively bring in native components, right? And then we can apply the same exact way to construct, plan, and change native code just using that same React engine. And then they go crazy with this, and it starts to sort of explode across the scene. People are like, oh my goodness, but it's still at this point, it's a weekend warrior project. It's an interesting concept. It's proof of concept on something there. And they decide in 2015 to, Meta says, or Facebook at the time says, we're going to make this have parity between iOS and Android. So we're going to have both of these. And with the open source community, people are like, this is awesome. This is kind of what I've been waiting for. And then we immediately start finding where the headaches are, right? We start figuring out how do you completely saturate the bridge because you're trying to do 1,000 updates from your camera, or you're trying to stream music over the bridge or something like that. So then people start figuring out how to improve it, starts getting better. And then they started putting it into marketplace, I believe, to actually start moving out into production. But there was this whole progressive, like, how do we work on React, which requires a whole team? How do we work on React Native, which requires a whole team? And then also, how do we work on our app? So they did put it on pause for a while. And during this time, this is when probably the medieval ages of React Native happened. You have Airbnb saying, sorry, we're out. You have people saying Meta is not actually using it, kind of this weird sort of lull that happens while they're doing this constructive, like the progress isn't visible.
Mm.
Then the proof of concept continues to grow. People are amazed by it. They're really happy with this architecture. So they say, hey, Meta, you're holding the ball. We need you to go ahead and bring it all the way to the end zone, but we're going to help. So Amazon, Microsoft, other companies start actually bringing people into the release cycle, start saying like, let's make this viable. How do we fix things? How do we take care of this stuff? Meta starts implementing it inside and starts absolutely using it throughout. So Meta's using it everywhere. Amazon's using it all over the place. And then Microsoft, as you know, has been using it for Office for a while, as well as a couple other things. So the amount of investment that's gone into it from large companies who just like the architecture is great. So there is a team owned inside of Meta just for advancing React Native. It is subset of the team is off to the side from the React team. React team's way bigger, but they are really focused on bringing in a new architecture that is way more platform independent. And, you know, at some point, there might be a merger or something like between those two to bring in some kind of unifying aspect. What would that look like? I have no idea. When are they going to do it? I have no idea. But I'll tell you this, Meta's significantly invested in this, and as well as a bunch of other companies. And now you've got apps all over the store that have millions of users that are utilizing this. There was a sort of a proof of concept, a little dip, and then a huge growth that kind of came through. And you see this almost like an inverse to what's happened with Flutter. Flutter was really pushed by Google. It was very important. Everybody should learn Dart. But then you see like now Google is really seriously fighting the AI war, and they're pulling resources left and right. It's not to say Flutter is dead or anything, but you don't hear as much about what the efforts
Mhm.
are and the team that they're pushing for that. They're trying to not lose the AI war here, and that's where their resources are going. Fair enough. Um, I think for Meta and these other companies, they're really happy to have a platform independent code base, and that's what they're investing in. And it's really important for companies like Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta to have those.
Mhm. Do
Yeah, there's
you
also
Sorry, that was a long answer. I'm
No,
long-winded
that's good.
today.
No, we're
That's
both
good. And
like
so that's
jumping at the bit to ask the next question. Go ahead, Brad.
that's taking like like a React component model style way of authoring
Mhm.
and translating that to the native layer.
Yeah.
How does web fit into that picture, right?
Yeah.
Because I know
Great
there's a
question.
library called React Native Web as
Yeah.
well, or you could just have a separate app called like a React app.
Yep.
So how do you go back towards the web side of things once you have that singular code base for
That's a
native platforms?
great question. So what happens is React can kind of like be or not be. You can say, oh, I'll have React here. I won't have React there. I want to use React to style this component, but I want to have the CSS file do kind of this. It's a little bit wishy-washy and friendly in the way that only the web can be, where I could tell you that a paragraph tag should be the color Brad, and it'll tell me what color that is, even though that is not the color that should be. It'll pick a color that should be Brad, right? And so what's interesting about this is that the web has this lossy friendly framework. It's also not strongly typed. It's just this easy kind of going place where I want to get this document, and then it should not fail. It should give me as much of that document as it can.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas React Native is way more centered on an application specific, almost strictly typed system, because and it's very important that you use TypeScript inside of React Native for optimization reasons, as well as just making sure you're not going to have any runtime bugs. But you have this whole other structure, and the styles have to be laid within here. Instead of saying a div, we have views. We have this generalized idea because what an input is on web, what an input is on Android, and what an input is on iOS, which is always like, iOS, Objective-C, touch, like untouchable interface, text area, something like these long, ridiculous names that used to be in Objective-C. So what happens is you're marrying all three of those things together to be like a simple component, right? And when you have that and it's going on Apple TV, it's going to look and perform and do things different than it would on a website, than it would on a phone. And so you have this difference in platforms, and that's why you're not going to get 100% code reusability. They're just concepts that don't exist on some platforms and do exist on other. You can't on hover on your phone. The phones are just do not care until you actually touch it.
Mhm.
Whereas you do care about focus insanely on an Apple TV. It's the only way you can touch it. Big different concepts. So you're going to be trying to share the concepts as much as possible, but having to go ahead and take care of the platforms where they depend. And so what this does is it would say like, all right, so what does this compile down to into the native for iOS, for Android? And then what React Native Web did is it said, well, what do we make when we go to a website? Take that exact same code, that nondescript set of syntax and JSX, and then now let's make web components out of that. And so the idea is that you can have a huge code reusability across all three of those platforms now, the business logic being there, the interface and sort of the UI and the changes, except for you are going to have to make small adjustments here and there, just fine. But you get this large boost instead of just taking the methodology of React and building, a React Native app and a whole separate React web page. If you really did need the same programmability to go into both, well, that's what React Native Web gives you.
Okay, and that's really interesting because you said that React Native Web produces web components. When you
Yeah.
say web components, you mean like custom elements, like real?
It's basically just creating like the correct HTML and JavaScript. Not exactly that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it comes back into React in any sense or web component. Yeah, what it's really doing is it's outputting the pieces that they're going to make that up for that platform. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So it
Yeah.
actually doesn't deliver like a React runtime
Yeah, it's
in
never.
the bundle.
That'd be really interesting as an idea in a project to have React Native come out and basically be generated into a React app. That'd be
Right.
really cool. But what it's doing under the is just it's still managing things through a React inside of a React Native and then just creating those native pieces.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. I mean, use the platform. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's just another platform. And let's say tomorrow, oh, you see this constantly. So now we're seeing VR goggles happening quite a bit.
Mhm.
They have their own pieces. So we have React, we have JSX, we have the main pieces there. Now you could just write the pieces to bring them over to that platform for what is this? And then you can make brand new ones that will only work on there, like a 3D floating box or whatever it is. But back in 2016, 2017, our team helped bring React Native over to Windows 7, which was basically just having the JavaScript and writing a lot of C# on what happens on the
Mm,
other side.
interesting. So are you guys using any framework? I know you mentioned Expo.
Oh, we love Expo. We love Expo. The
Okay.
Expo had a bad rap for a while, just like React Native did. Expo was always the community leader in open source, but everybody would say, "Oh, you have to eject out of Expo. You have to do this." Well, Expo has been continuously creating a fantastic developer experience with also the tools to release and manage those apps afterward.
Hmm.
That business has been working since before, I believe, React Native was public. I think they knew about it with Meta, and they've been moving forward to sort of be the first thing you should do. And that's prescribed
Mm,
by Meta as well. You should use Expo immediately. And if you need a bunch of opinions, we actually have a library called Ignite, which is sort of like a kitchen sink of good templates and good practices. And they work together. So you can ignite a new Expo project and then have a whole bunch of stuff already coded for you. So that way you're like, oh, okay, so that's how they're doing navigation. That's how they're doing this. That's how this works. So you don't have to start from scratch. I would ignite a new Expo app, and that's the two pieces they'll just throw you in there. And then, if you're going to weekend warrior something, you're already halfway there. You just got to go ahead and create your screens.
that's so
Do
cool.
you feel like the React Native ecosystem is more opinionated when it comes to, let's say, frameworks and things like that, like Expo being the go-to thing,
Yeah.
as opposed to the React ecosystem, which is just pretty wild and all over the place?
It is very, very opinionated. Of course, when we get to state management, nobody still knows what's
Mhm.
going on, but that's always going to be forever a thing. But yeah, I noticed that when mobile came into JavaScript, JavaScript was a little bit of I'm not going to say cesspool, but it was a little bit less friendly for a while. And it's turned into a very welcoming, friendly. React has brought a great group of people together. And then React Native as a subset is sort of like the small club off to we're like the chess club of like that entire academy, and super welcoming, super kind, super friendly. But of course you're going to get a lot of really nice opinions and people caring about how to do stuff, sharing how to do it, and really happy to show off that they know, like, hey, you should try this or you should try that. It's got a lot more direction than I'm used to in JavaScript.
For someone that's wanting to transfer, like, or change from React
Mhm.
knowledge to React Native, what's the biggest shift in
That's
mental
a great question.
models and with like the learning curves?
There's a really painful aspect of having to bring down native platforms and running things on emulators and simulators that doesn't feel
Mm,
natural. When a web developer takes a look at Xcode, it looks like confusing and alien and the commands seem bad. But I would say just power through that a bit. Xcode's been hauled along and has a history of things that actually make sense but aren't explanatory to people who are fresh. Watch a couple YouTube videos on how things work on Xcode, not React Native with Xcode, just Xcode. Watch a couple things about how to do things with Android Studio, And then get a little comfortable with that. Realize that you're not going to open those very often, but you are going to have to open those simulators and emulators, be comfortable with the commands, watch those things happen, and be familiar with the idea that while you might know exactly what the tag would be, or you know how to do this in CSS, you're going to have to be stuck inside because you're only going to be able to use Flexbox inside. You're not going to get any kind of grids or
Mhm.
anything like that. So you're going to have a limited system because that layout system has to know how to talk to all these other native systems. So you're confined a little bit. But if you're okay with that, and you're okay with just sort of getting comfortable with a little bit of new, it's not hard to really get into it. If you're running, it's a little harder to run a Hello World in React Native than you've ever had before from web. But once you've got it, you're right back at it. You've got immediate reloading, refreshing. You're able to watch things, and then you can take your phone out and show people your app. It's just such a fun kind of idea. It just takes a little bit of an onboarding that people sometimes are not ready for. If you're not ready for it and you didn't allocate the time
Yeah.
for it, you're going to get frustrated.
Would you
What
say there's more of a learning curve to get from 0 to Hello World versus, let's say, going from a Hello World app and then deploying it to Apple or
Yeah.
Android? Like, is
So
it easier to go cross-platform than get like your
Yeah.
project up and running?
There's two sneaky places where bodies are buried. The first one is getting to Hello World.
Mhm.
It's a surprise. Once you get there, next thing you know, you're adding screens like crazy. You're adding them
Yeah.
left and right. You're doing all kinds of stuff. Things feel right. You're like, oh, I want to have a hamburger menu. Oh, that's it. I made a hamburger menu, everybody. It's working great. Then the next sneaky part is that after the MVP and the proof of concept's in place, and you're looking to go ahead and send it to the stores for people to evaluate, you're going to start finding some weird, like, why is the performance on this screen going to hell? What did I do? What happened? And that's the part where we actually, as a consulting company, a lot of the time we help people architect at the beginning, or we help them architect version 1.1 because they've done some things that they didn't know were not good. But on a computer, like, it's no problem. It's re-rendering every like hundredth of a second. Like, it's who noticed? What were they running on, a Raspberry Pi? But on your phone, if you've got small mistakes, higher order components rendering at the navigation level, or things that shouldn't be, or you're pulling in 27 calls on each cell inside of a large scrolling list, and you notice that it jitters a little bit as you're scrolling it. Yeah, you're going to find those. And that's the part that, we usually come in and help people out with those more complex problems, let them know when we need to dump it into native code, or when we need to offload this other piece, or how to do it more effectively. And so that's the two spots. You should expect, hey, I got React Native running. You're going to be really set all the way till like version 1 or version 1 beta. And then you've got to kind of come back and learn a little bit about the efficiencies of what's going on, how to debug a mobile app, how to watch the RAM usage and see what's going on, and then get it effectively efficient. So that way, there's a big difference between your simulator and then who's emulating GPS coordinates and going out there and actually pinging it, possibly killing a phone battery, or having your camera like pulling in tons of frames and killing it, or just crashing because you're in some weird situation that the simulator couldn't get you into. That's the other spot that I would worry about.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
What is one of the projects that you guys have worked on that you're the most proud of?
Oh my goodness. Look, we have a couple of different ways to measure the way that we're proud of people. One of them is sometimes our people will just be able to go above and beyond when they're showing what's going on. And it's a little bit of a leadership and like kindness skill. And so on that aspect, I don't know if I'm allowed to say all the clients, but we've been tossed some pretty crazy stuff. And I gotta say kudos to people who lead the project here at Infinite Red, to Mazen, to Frank, to Josh, to Lizzie, to Robin. there's some really cool projects where personality wise, it's really, really a big piece of why we hired them and they
Mm.
brought it across the board. For technological wise, it gets really fun because we've done point of sale apps for, I think they're on our website. I can say this. Let me make sure they're on our website. All right, I see Starbucks on our website, so I'm allowed to talk about that. We've done huge apps for Mercari. We've done amazing open source for people. So, I'll go back to the point of sale for Starbucks. That was a React Native Windows app for point of sale for them. And it's just such a cool thing. There's like the demos, he had like the little printer there and he's
Yeah.
just showing us the stuff. He's like, it's super cool to see that stuff. So the nerd brain is constantly going here. And I really enjoy that. And also I would give Mark Rickert a huge kudos. Like he came in, I think he was helping us with Gas Buddy, which does like there's millions and millions of users. And it's just really important to have those features really locked in and fantastic. So that's 2 technological wins that I would say I'm really proud of the team for. But personality wise, like I said, we're a clubhouse. It's really fun to have people come back with their stories or, hey, look what I solved or kind of like brought this in. And I'm not able to say some of the clients because I'm looking here at a website, but there's one large fast food provider that our team gets along super well with. And the updates that come out of that just make me happy every day.
I think my favorite part of that recap was how you focused on the people aspect.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we get obsessed with the tech and the stack, but it
Yes.
really is people building things. So I
Yeah.
really do appreciate that.
Yeah, we have happy, awesome nerds.
Well, and that speaks to it. If you said you had people that have been there for 10 years.
Yeah.
So, with a team of seniors, how do you guys stay current and not
Oh,
just settle in what you already know, but continue to push each other forward?
that's a great question. One of the things I'll tell you that's really nice is that seniors. Oh, can y'all still hear me? My screen
Mhm.
just went black. Good. Seniors will really appreciate the fact that we've been doing remote work for a while. We did remote work since the beginning of the company, before it got cool during the pandemic, and everybody was sort of wound up hating remote work. But one of the great things that happens with that is that we are able to have people focus when they're able to focus, deliver what they have to, and then at the same time, they really care a lot about the fact that they can, if someone's child comes in during one of our meetings, we're all like, "Hey, Zaid, how you doing?" Like we know their names. We're really happy to see everybody, and I think that aspect brings things together because one for remote work is it allows senior developers to really kind of do their best work and care about it when they need to. It's not like butts and seats having to
Mhm.
be told what to do all the time and you have to stay on top of them. I have my house getting redone, and if I don't go see my contractor, nothing gets done. I went on a
Mm.
cruise for 7 days. I came back, he did one thing. So it's a little different from that. But the truth is, you couldn't pay our people to sit still. It's just
Mm.
not the mentality that they have. And that's great with senior developers. It's great with remote work. And when we have everybody kind of working together in that, the other aspect is they're all very nice, likable. So when we have an in-person event, which we have 1 to 2 a year, or I get to see these people either at conferences, it's just so nice and happy and friendly. And I already know their family's names. I already know their dog's name. I already know what's going on. It just feels like I'm seeing a friend I haven't seen in a long time.
Mm.
And that really moves it forward. If we didn't have senior developers, if we didn't have people who really enjoyed the idea that they have control over their day and their creativity, then it would be a much different place to work.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I am ready to go back to an office,
Oh,
honestly.
wow.
Like, I think mostly for the people aspect though, right? Like you need to
Yeah.
foster those relationships with colleagues and just get comfortable with each other, work as a team well. And I think
Yeah.
office life a little bit helps with that. Or conversely, have a really, really strong remote culture
Mhm.
where
Mhm.
people understand and respect schedules and still take the time to get to know each other.
And offices sometimes have like a huge amount of flexibility as well. Let me ask, when you're going back to the office, is anybody like, where's Brad been? If you take a 2-hour lunch, or does anybody like is it open workspace where people are clipping their toenails on top of their desk and everybody like, is there anything happening there? Because the truth is, some offices are different from other offices. I
Yes.
love having my own refrigerator, being able to see my wife, seeing my daughter when she comes home from school. Like, those things are just going to be irreplaceable for me. But I have worked in offices where they have a ping pong table, but you're in trouble if you end up using it before the sprint's over. And so, like, I guess it's just a different kind of thing. I imagine at Stripe, it's going to be the coolest office ever, though. So, to be fair, I probably want to go to your office and your Christmas party as well.
It's gigantic. Yes.
Ah, sounds nice. Yeah, that sounds amazing. I would like that.
Are there any other questions? Because we can move into rapid fire. Do you
Let's
have?
hit the
Okay,
rapid fire.
or I was gonna
Yeah,
ask,
finger guns.
Yeah, there you are.
Gan, is there anything that you want to say that we haven't given you a chance to say yet?
You know what? I I just really appreciate that y'all take the time to put this out there, and that
Mhm.
y'all consistently putting out this kind of content, bringing people this kind of information. I love this. So, I wanted to say thanks for having me on.
Oh, sure.
That's the only piece I didn't get a chance to say yet.
Well, I appreciate that. It's very kind. This is really very selfish on my part. It's like, because I'm like, even if nobody listens to the episode, it is really about me being able to connect with friends
Mhm.
or be able to ask questions from experts that I don't have the opportunity to ask. And
Yeah,
so it's really my best networking hack that I have.
that's
So it's
awesome.
it's really selfish on my part.
Well,
Okay.
good.
So we have some rapid fire questions, and I'm
All right.
excited about these. So I'll start, and we'll kind of ping pong back and forth. iOS or Android for your personal device?
Oh, great question. I have iOS simply because when you got into mobile development, you had to have iOS, and I've just kept it since.
Okay.
All right. What's your go-to debugging tool that you can't live without?
Believe it or not, we actually made our own. It's called Reactotron, and it is amazing. It's wonderful for React Native. It's really cool. Definitely watch the talk given by Darren Wilson on it. It's super cool.
Is it public?
Yep. Yeah, it's open
That's so
source,
cool.
public,
What?
super cool thing, and people use it all over the time. And we didn't put any analytics in it, so we just hear about how popular it is, but we don't know. We should have put analytics in it, but yeah.
That's awesome. Coffee, tea, or something else?
I recently went caffeine free, and it's been amazing. So I'm
Really?
I'm a huge tea guy. I'm as insane coffee guy for years. Now I'm
Yeah.
wildly into tea.
Somebody at Magnolia told me about, is it White Stallion?
Oh,
Is that no white? There's something white.
oh.
I thought it might have been you. That would have been pre no caffeine. Okay.
Yeah, that was back when I was so addicted. I had to have coffee runs throughout the day. It was sort of like the way I broke my day up. It's like, it's time for my 3 o'clock coffee run. So here we go. Now, weirdly enough, I got off of it because my wife did a detox, and I'm like, I'm not going back. That
Mm,
was weird. I still like the treats, I
yeah.
still treat myself too, but then I would go get a boba tea instead. It's fine.
Yeah.
I know we're turning these rapid fire questions into longer questions, but
I
I did the
have to throw
coffee
that.
detox. I did the coffee detox for a
Yeah,
while. It's like 2 months, maybe 3 months.
yeah,
I found myself back on it.
yeah.
While I
It's easy
didn't
socially.
while I didn't
Mhm.
mind like getting off of it, I did feel a little bit foggy without the caffeine.
Oh,
Even after those 3 months, it's like my brain just never woke up during the day.
do you have
I
like
don't
a
know.
2 or 3 o'clock dip?
Um, yes, but I mostly view that because of like the carbohydrates that I eat for lunch, where it's like, oh, now I
Oh yeah.
feel tired.
Gotcha. My 2 or 3 o'clock dip went away, but then my
Mm.
late night is gone. So I start
Mm.
getting tired like an old man now I'm like, what
Yeah.
time is it? It's 9:30. Dear goodness.
That was good. I try to be caffeine free. So even
I,
though I love coffee, I like to say that I'm a true coffee fan because it's about the taste, not about the caffeine.
there you go.
Mm.
That's awesome.
Okay, next question. What's one app on your phone that might surprise people?
Oh my goodness. There's this app called like Throwing Bacon or something like that. It is the silliest thing. It's like different like levels of I can't find it right this second. But what you do is you have to get the bacon to stay on the thing. It's like ragdoll physics. It's the dumbest app I've ever seen in my life. And
Oh, that's so
if I showed
funny.
it to someone, they would think less of me.
My son's been playing oh shoot. I'll have to come back to the name of it. Humans Fall Flat. And it
My-
has that it's called Humans Fall Flat. It's a video game, but it's like the dolls that you're moving around kind of have that ragdoll effect. So it's really goofy in how they move and they can't really move and you just have to like throw yourself at stuff.
Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah, it's called Bacon the Game, by the way. So if anybody
That's
downloads
awesome.
that, feel free to judge me.
Terminal or GUI?
Terminal. I got hogged into. I came from DOS. Came from
Yes.
DOS. I have to. I'm back in my favorite.
What non-technical skill has been the most valuable in your career?
So career-wise, it'd have to be Toastmasters. That was the thing. It's opened me up. I went from fear of speaking to being on fantastic podcasts like this, traveling the world, meeting people all over the world, India, London, everything like that. I couldn't have done this without actually going to Toastmasters. So that was a career changer for me.
That's awesome. If you couldn't use React Native, what would be your second choice of technology?
Huh.
And don't say regular React.
I won't say Flutter. Lynx came out as interesting. They're going to go through all the same headache that React Native went through. It's way too young. It's way too simple. It has one major client, which is ByteDance. And it's going to be, but it's kind of going back to that garage coding thing. And that's fun. I wouldn't ship a production app with it yet, but I would use it and have fun.
Okay. What is your preferred coding environment? Like office, coffee shop, somewhere else?
I used to code all over the place. Now, as a family man, this is the small sanctuary space I'm allowed. And even then, my wife has stuff everywhere off screen. So I have one choice now. It is this office, but it takes good care of me.
What is a tech prediction that you've made that turned out completely wrong?
Wow, I like that a lot. I guess I'm going to go with. I thought AI was going to blow up faster. I thought people were going to be training their own models and releasing apps on phones way faster. Like, hey, did I leave my garage door open.com or something like that? I really did think people were going to grab AI fast. It is generative AI that started it. It was not just, machine learning in general. I thought everybody was going to be like, yay. So I was a little early. I was very wrong.
And last one we got, if you could instantly master one technology outside of, your current expertise, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. That is a really great question. So does the technology have to be, I guess it has to be in tech. So yeah, that's it.
I would almost expand this question to anything. If you want to pick up any skill and you could do it instantly, what could it be?
I want to be bilingual before I die. I really, really want to. Now that I've traveled the world, I've seen where my English stops and a whole new culture begins.
Yeah.
And I have to stay on the other side of that shroud and look at it and say, oh man, I want to go in there and have that fun. I want to go speak to these people. So I would choose a language and then I would immerse myself in a whole new culture and enjoy it.
What
would you choose?
Particular? Yeah.
Well, I guess I would choose as of right now, if I had, since this isn't magic, I would have to choose Spanish because I have high school and
Mm.
college Spanish and I have Duolingo. So my
There you
goal
go.
is to eventually get that before I die. And ojalá que sí, right? I'm going to get there as fast as I can. But if I could choose anyone, oh my goodness, maybe it'd be something wild and crazy, like German or something like that.
That's not what I was expecting you to say.
Just like
I was
off
feel
the
thinking
like-
like Mandarin. To me, I'm like Mandarin is
oh, Mandarin,
wild,
yeah, oh,
wild
that's
and crazy because you're talking about like pictures for characters.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
and all, yeah. I guess like also with just that's I guess Mandarin and Chinese culture, that would be the most career advancing one as well.
Mm,
Oh, that's see,
interesting.
you've thought about this longer than me.
I really have
Yeah.
not.
Or you got to do it based on where you want to visit. Like I
Uh-huh.
want to go stay in this country, and then you pick
Yeah.
that language.
Spain is beautiful. Every time I've gone there, it's
Mm.
amazing. So not a bad choice then. I guess it's career versus messing
Pleasure.
with people versus going to someplace awesome.
Brad can join you on your Spanish endeavors.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I've got 1,200 days in Duolingo, and
Ah.
my wife is Mexican, so I've got
Okay,
great big reasons to learn and get fluent.
well, practicar conmigo cada día.
Sí. Sueno bien. Gracias.
Ah, bueno.
Muy pequeño.
I was like, "Are you ordering a coffee?" Or I
yeah,
saw the silliest TikTok the other day. I'm letting the mask slip a bit here by telling you I had a bacon game in this TikTok that I saw. But this guy goes to Starbucks and he's like, "Hey, there's a large rat in the bathroom," and the Starbucks person's like, "What?" Like, "There's a large rat in the bathroom." He goes, "What?" He goes, "There's a venti rat in the bathroom." And they go, "Oh no!"
That's so funny. That's awesome. Okay, so we will move into the next segment of the show, which is our picks and plugs. We pick something that we like and we plug something generally that we worked on. So, who wants to go first?
Y'all have to go first.
I'll go first. I got to pick. I've started keeping a list of them just so I'd be prepared. We listened to another podcast. I guess this was maybe September, so it's been out for a while, but it is a podcast called Scamanda, and I've been told that they have turned this into a Hulu TV show. But
Oh
it's
wow.
about a girl named Amanda that created this huge scam where she told everybody she had cancer. She never did. And she tricked all these people into giving her money. It's fascinating, just everything that she went through, how she tricked all these people. She's currently in jail. You also have the investigators on there talking about how they figured all of this out, like how you go after somebody like that, because a lot of it's donations. It's just people giving away their money, and they're like, well, that was their prerogative to give it away. Like, how do you go
Right.
after somebody like
Yeah.
that? So it is a fascinating, very well done show. So it's called Scamanda.
Nice.
And then for my plug, oh man, I'll plug Redwood. So I know I talk about it some on the show, but Redwood SDK was released about month ago, and it's built entirely off of Cloudflare. So one of the big tasks that I have had lately is creating this tutorial to talk about how do you build a full stack application using Redwood SDK and React. So go check out the tutorial. It is quite long, but it is aimed at juniors. And so if you're new to development, trying to figure out how do I get in with React, how do I build a full stack application, this tutorial will walk you through the entire process.
Wow.
So I'll
Sweet. Yeah.
include links
I
for
can't wait
that.
to get my hands on some of the new Redwood SDK stuff.
Yeah, I'm working right now on turning that into a video. So hopefully I'm going to start dropping videos as I finish them, but hopefully that'll be complete next week.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah,
Who's
you want to
up
go next?
Sure. Yeah. For my pick, I'm going to go back to 2014 and say the movie Whiplash. It's one of those movies that people have said, you have to see this, you have to see this, you have to see this. And I said, fine. After 3 people, I'll go watch it. And it's about a jazz drummer. I was like, I don't know why I have to see this movie. Oh my goodness. That is such a good movie. If you like excellent acting, writing, and just the indomitable aspect of the human spirit, That movie will move you. It is so well done. And I'm sorry it took so long for me to go ahead and see it. I had no idea it existed. But Whiplash is an amazing movie, 2014. And then
Awesome.
I will plug. I've already talked about how fantastic Infinite Red is, so I'm not going to actually talk about them anymore. But they're amazing. I will talk about. I built this really silly website called AISortingHat.com, and I love this for explaining the idea of like transfer learning and building data sets and things like that. So what happens is it has this little sketch pad in the middle, and you draw on the sketch pad, and it tells you what house you're sorted into for Harry
Oh my
Potter.
goodness.
So
I
if you
love
draw a
this.
snake, it's going to put you in Slytherin. If you draw a bird, it'll put you in Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, and Gryffindor. So it depends on what you draw. Don't draw a skull. You've been warned, because just do not do that. But building that data set, training that model, putting on there, it was super fun. And then when I'm teaching people at workshops or when I'm at conferences, one of the things I'll show them is like how easy it is to transfer that existing model is trained off of thousands and thousands and thousands of images over to be now utilized for a whole new task. So we do transfer learning, and I do what Star Trek symbol is it? And you could do that with just 50 images right there in the browser. All this happens in the browser. I think I have a blog article on how it works and how it's created and how the data set was made. But super cool idea. So it's AISortingHat.com. Really kind of locks down some of the machine learning ideas early on, and in a fun and interesting way.
That's amazing. I just tried to draw a unicorn, and I had the main head
Yeah.
of the unicorn, and so it made me a Ravenclaw. And then I drew it again, but I made the mane huge, and so then it put me in Gryffindor.
Nice.
Hmm.
Yeah. The data set that came from this was a clean data set from Google when they had the doodle thing. I don't know if you remember that. It was like back in the early 2000s, where they had people drawing Pictionary stuff, and then they kept all those drawings and made a data set out of it.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
sweet.
So I did that, broke it down into ravens, snakes, lions, and badgers, or like also possums and stuff like that, and then made a data set out of it and train a model on it.
Very cool.
Okay. So for me, I'm kind of just going to mash my pick and plug all together. I've been building out the new Remix Austin meetup website
Nice.
based off of some very vague mocks, which I could use some more information there. But I'm streaming it all on YouTube pretty much. And so I'll link my YouTube channel there, as well as if I can find all the links here. Here's the actual Remix Austin website. Fantastic meetup in Austin, all about Remix, run by Brooks Librand, the DevRel and the Remix team. And I will also link the GitHub repo where you can see all the work and the pull requests going in. So this has just been what I've been involving myself in lately, and it's been a lot of fun to work on it on the side with some other folks.
Nice.
I think Remix is getting ready for another announcement. So
They've been releasing little marketing tweets, and I'm so excited. There's like cool robot animations on there, and I'm digging it.
Very
awesome.
cool.
Well, thanks again, Grant, for joining us today.
Yeah.
And if you are listening on your podcatcher of choice, please leave a rating and review. Helps us get other great guests, helps other people find our show. And for now, that's all we got.
Oh, cool. Well, thank y'all for having me. Bye, everybody.
I think that last one came out as Grant.
It
even though I do
happens
know
all
your
the
name
time.
is
It happens all the time. It's I'm the only Gant people know, so
Yeah.
that's fair.
Which is perfect. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless if I ever commit a crime, people will be able to find me. So
Oh.
I have
Well,
to-
or
I
if
have
you're
to-
trying to find never keychains.
Oh yeah,
No.
never gonna happen. It's totally okay for me, but having a Googleable name, Gant Laborde, it's just like I'll trade it. I didn't know, growing up that would be valuable, but I'll take it.
That's so funny. Thanks everybody for hanging out in the chat. Probably mostly on Twitter, X, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye, chat.